So all I want to do in this live is just kind of tell you how this is going to flow, what to expect, and that's it. And I think I'm going to post this on my Instagram and maybe YouTube as well, because I was going to I was actually going to do this yesterday, but I ended up just kind of having, Mondays are usually my day off, so it just ended up kind of being a really busy day and I didn't pop on. So I'm going to leave registration open until the end of today, and that way if anyone else wants to join, they can. I've had so many people message me about it, and I haven't done a great job at advertising about this class other than just Instagram, and I've mentioned it on YouTube a couple times. But anyway, okay, so let me just get started on what I want to say for this group. First of all, the number one concept for this entire group, and what I feel like this first round did so well at, is the idea that all of us are showing up and participating in this conversation. So even if you're someone who's naturally quiet, especially if you're someone who's naturally quiet, who doesn't really get involved, who kind of observes and doesn't say much, number one, be aware of the energy you're bringing in, even and especially through your silence, because it is often the people who are the most silent and the ones who observe the most that are actually the most palpable. And my theory is that people who are observers actually have a stronger piece of the psychic grid. It's often why we observe so much. What I've noticed about myself, because I typically have been someone who doesn't participate or who's more of an observer or more quiet when I'm in groups or in even live classes, is that what I've observed about that is that what we are projecting onto the experience, what we're thinking about it, the narrative we're telling about it, how we're either witnessing or judging it, determines a large part of how it's going to play out. And this class is going to be heavily focused on shadow work, because I really believe that there's so many shadow contracts that get implemented in co-creative spaces, and especially when it comes to business, because there's this whole underlining competitive model that we've been presented with most of our life. And then for a lot of people who do coaching or energy work, we're all pretty much, I feel like we're very lone ranger type of people. And you almost have to be, because for this type of work, I know for me, it's largely creative. You have to be in touch with your own inspiration. You've got to be in touch with your own internal voice. And so we tend to often be very lone rangers. But I think that we haven't fully explored what could happen is if we came together in the astrals, if we came together in our energy field, in what we are offering with our presence, instead of just believing that we are the fly on the wall, or that we don't have much of an influence, or even if you do believe you're an influence, you have an influence, and you know that you're observing is affecting everyone, whether you realize it or not, being very conscious about what kind of energy you're adding. And so what I did in the last group is every live we did, I tried to set everybody up on the same page, even for the people who weren't there live, because the truth is it's going to be impossible for us to all be on live at the same time. So the reality is every time I pop on, there's going to be some of you watching it live, and there's going to be some people watching it later. But I want us to all be aware of each other. And I want this to be a space where we can really, really practice with our intuitive, witchy, empathic gifts. And specifically, I want to co-tune into the heaven on earth grid. That's the resonance I want to pull through in myself, and the resonance I want to encourage and like flame within you. The resonance of heaven on earth, which starts, it's not just a utopic idea. It starts through pleasure in the body. It starts through how we feel moment to moment. And so a lot of this work is going to be about slowing way down. And it might even seem counterintuitive, especially for business, because when you get into business groups or entrepreneurial groups or anything that's like in this realm, you'll find that one of the major components of it is hustle. Hustle, hustle, hustle. And that kind of like, I'm the best, I'm going to get up, I'm going to take it, I'm going to do it sort of energy. Nothing wrong with that energy at all. It's a good energy. It's needed at certain times. But I feel like what hasn't been fully explored is the concept of what happens when you are still. When we are still, and when we focus our energy and our focus and our creative abilities on cultivating a resonance of heaven on earth, cultivating a resonance of pleasure, allowing our pleasure to be a part of the equation, and our pleasure in the smallest, most minute, all the nuances, in all those sort of ways. That's where things start getting really, really good, when we can tune into the nuances and the subtleties and make adjustments there, make small adjustments. It's amazing the level of pleasure that can be heightened in our whole experience when we pay attention to those small things. And this is what I believe empaths they're privy to. Empaths naturally usually tune into the subtleties and the nuances, especially within group dynamics. But when we're in the lack matrix, or we're in the victim, aggressor, savior paradigm, and we're trying to do business from that space as empaths, we tend to just naturally be more preemptive, more defensive, more not so trustworthy. We're very protective of our energy. We're very highly suspicious of other people. We tend to be really highly suspicious of anyone who's in the spiritual realm / also offering a service, therefore asking for money in some sense. If you feel into the collective spiritual, if you want to call it that, movement of empaths, I believe there is a lot of judgment around anyone who is asking for money. And the reason is because there's been so much lack in that. And there's been so many people who've been screwed over by quote unquote spiritual people. And so this is an area that I think it's important in this group that we're really aware of, and that the concept and the idea that I really want to bring here within this group is that we are all powerful, we're all multidimensional, we're all empathic, and we all have a responsibility with that gift. And if we all consciously project, use our creative abilities, use our understanding of manifestation, which I feel like if you're in this group, you have a pretty solid understanding of manifestation at this point, because you wouldn't even be attracted to this group had you not. So using that all consciously to create and sustain a powerful resonance or network of empath entrepreneurs where we are tantric in our flow. And to even say the word entrepreneur and put it in there, you guys are aware because you can feel where that word can trigger lack, or where it can trigger suspicion, or where it can trigger associations with capitalism, which then have associations with like colonialism or slavery, essentially, which if you've been following me for a while, all of that's under the lack matrix. So I'm using the word entrepreneur on purpose. And one of the things I want us to co-create within here is a neutralization around that word, that we give it meaning ourselves, that we are the ones, by our ability to finally tune in to how things feel and therefore make adjustments at the most subtle, energetic, astral levels, especially in the way that we're thinking of ourselves and each other, we can shift things quite dramatically. This is what I was experimenting with in the first group. And honestly, it was about third or fourth week in, I realized this needs to be a class. I've got to keep everyone in it that originally signed up, because this just became it just tapped me into something that I feel like I've been trying to pull this through for a while, but I didn't quite exactly know what I was doing. So thank you again to all of you in the first round for just being so amazing and gracious. And I have to say, you guys, I purposely limited this group to 10 people before. I think I ended up letting in 11 or 12. I had a little bit over what I had originally said. But we're a pretty tight group, and everyone has been so vulnerable and cool and open. And I've been more vulnerable than I ever have. If you watch some of the lives from the first round, they may not make sense to you because they were all contextual. But still, you'll see I am way more vulnerable than I probably ever have been live before, or anything that I put out publicly. So please keep in mind as you're entering into this space that it's sacred ground, because we're working with our humanity, and we're working on dissolving entire I'm seeing highways, like where we psychically have been connected for so long and reinforcing the lack matrix mentality with each other. So what I really want to do in this space is make a conscious effort, every single one of us, to dissolve that highway and consciously choose anomaly. We are entering into a new space. So as much as you possibly can, bring nothing from the past with you and have no expectations. Only have expectancy. Something that's more alive. Show up with your energy. Show up with your intention to feel good and take full responsibility that you are a part of the equation. This is not just show up and have, and I know you guys know this, so this isn't like a reprimand, but it's just a reminder. This is not to show up and have me do the work for you or anyone else do the work or even me give you answers that you don't already have. This is an experiment of powerful co-creators coming together to consciously influence our grid. And I really want to set the stage from the get-go. So what I'm going to do quickly is just set us up. No matter when you watch this, please do this part because it's important. This part of setting your energy up, setting your intention. And then I'm going to just quickly go through the weeks. I may change the order of how I do this, but I'm going to tell you basically what the next 9 weeks are going to look like. Probably be 10 weeks altogether because we're really going to start diving into the content next week. This week is really about welcome. Here's the concepts. This is what I want to do. And then next week we're going to really start diving into the material. So number one, in this moment, no matter where you are or when you're watching this, take a second and put your hand on your heart if you can. Or if you're driving or something or running, I know some people listen to iPods or you know what I'm saying. Some of you listen to it while you're running. Just be aware of your heart if you can't put your hand on your heart. But if you can, touch your body because we're going to get tantric in this group. So how you feel in your physical body matters. How you feel when you watch this matters. How you feel as you're watching it matters. How it feels if you get triggered by something that I say, it matters. It's gold. All of it matters. So I want you to just right now make a commitment that you are going to care about how you feel more than you ever have in your entire freaking life. I want all of us to. And that you're going to take responsibility for your energy field and for the resonance you're offering more than you ever have in your life. I also want you to have full permission to, if you're in the middle of a live and something I say triggers you to the point where you don't want to watch anymore without judgment, then turn it off and wait until you work through your trigger. You will probably get triggered in this because we're going to be talking about sexual energy and how it influences our work and how when we allow our sexual energy to be fueled into our work, we thrive. How where we have blocks around sexual energy, how it blocks money in our reality, how it often blocks us from having relationships with our work and with our clients that feel good. So we're going to be going into the fault lines of where and why we settle into lack, where and why we are in shadow contracts with the lack matrix, where and why we allow our creative energy to be siphoned off to fuel lack. All of it has to do with fear, guilt, and shame. So if fear, guilt, or shame, or all of the above come up for you during this course, know that it is a gold mine. You've got to get there so you can catapult out of that fault line. You've got to see what holds your energy in there and why it's there. So I just want you to take a second. If you can close your eyes, but tune into your heart, put your hand on your heart if you can, and just, for me, it helps to imagine imagine dropping into my heart center. There's this tiny little place in your heart where all the energy of your toroidal field enters into and comes out of. It's the source of all sources. Remember that the heart is the first organ that's formed in the womb. We are heart. Your brain can stop, but if your heart stops, you die. We are heart first and foremost. The brain is secondary. So we are going to be moving throughout this course from here, not from here. The mind is meant to serve us and create the reality that our heart instructs. So first we're going to get in touch with our heart, and we're going to get so clear about what feels good and what doesn't. We're going to get so clear about the fact that we have permission, full permission, to shift our resonance when something doesn't feel good. So take a second to step into your heart, drop into your heart. Imagine you're in the center of your heart where all the energy of life is flowing in and out of you and through you. Tune into that space. And from here, for me, I see it as just light, just pure life, pure light. And from this space, just make that commitment. Tune into your heart and make the commitment to strengthen your resonance field, to strengthen the life force energy within you and around you. Just make that commitment to yourself. Just say it silently to yourself if you have to, but that I am for you. I am for you. I am here. I will not abandon you. And this is something we're saying to our physical bodies, to the physical vessel. I'm here. This is why putting your hand on your heart, it matters in this equation. I'm here. I'm here. I'm present. I'm alive. And I don't know anything about what's going to happen because I can't predict the future. But I do know in this moment and in any moment following, I have a choice on what I focus on. I have a choice on what I say with my words, therefore what I'm supporting and giving energy to. And I have a say in the actions that I take and what prompts them, what the intention is behind them. And this is what we're going to get so clear about using our creative technology, our Trinity tech, our ability to speak, our ability to feel, and our ability to act. Feel and think, same thing. And our ability to act. Those three things under the intention of the win-win-win. And so I just want you to set up there. Set your intention there. The win-win-win means if it's not a win for your whole Trinity, it's not a win. The lack matrix is about our Trinity being at war with itself. Our creative technology being at war with itself. Heaven on earth, or the abundance matrix, is about being in fellowship with our Trinity. Being in fellowship with our creative technology, including all of what we are in the equation. Myself, others, and the planet. My body, my mind, and my heart. All of those things are an aspect of me, and that includes you. You are an aspect of me, and I'm including all of those things in the equation. The lack matrix is about sacrificing one of those things. That's why there's always lack. So once you just take a second and tune into that, to the win, just tune into, if you need to pause me, do. If you're watching this live, I'll just be quiet for 1 second just to tune in. And also remember, you can, when I say you have a choice in how you show up, something that I directed everyone to do in the first round of this, especially during the lives, is remember that we're having a conversation. So even though you may not be typing and I may not be responding to everything you say, I'm feeling you. And this is part of what we're exploring together, is how we are psychically connected and how we are energetically connected, and how when we include our energetic field into the equation of a conversation and be intentional about what we are saying and doing energetically, that's taking another level of responsibility for yourself. When we are intentional about that and we include it, we change the whole way a live feels, or any experience, but in this case, the live. So if you are at any point feeling, for example, and I felt like the first round did so well at this, if you're feeling like you're watching my energy and you feel something that, like, say you all of a sudden feel, I don't know, like something in your solar plexus, and you're most likely feeling me if you're an empath, or you're feeling something I said triggered something in you. But regardless, pay attention how you respond to everything that I say, and then be proactive. So let's say I say something and you feel something in your solar plex, like a hollow feeling, or that sense of clenching or tightness. Shift in you and see. You can imagine a light, for example, like a yellow light. That's the solar plexus energy. If you're feeling like something I say triggers you and you feel your energy field shrink, turn into a color that makes you feel more powerful. Say an I am statement in your mind. Send energy to me if you want. If I try really hard as I'm tuning into this to pay attention to what's coming through and also how the dynamic feels. But we're not live. Like we're not together physically. So there's a lot that I can't pick up on. But what I have been so amazed at is how psychically we can connect if we try, if we just tune in and be intentional about it. So when you psychically communicate to me, I can feel it, and I'm feeling your energy, and it really shapes the conversation. We've had some really epic conversations doing this, where the whole thing just feels way more tantric. And I want it to feel like, if we're going to be here, if you spent money on this and I'm showing up with my time and my energy, why not make it the best experience that we can make it? And how will we know unless we tune into how it feels? So that's the main component of this. And this is the experimental part, is experimenting, including our energy field and our creative, multidimensional gifts, our psychic gifts, our empathic gifts, into the equation of what we're creating, both when we are live with each other and everything we're projecting onto this experience outside of this. Like when you do the work outside of this core, outside of the lives, how you think about this group, how you think about the people in it, what story you're telling about the group, all of it influences how this group is going to be to you. And most of us have a typical narrative that we tell all the time, especially if you've ever signed up for a class before. What's the narrative you usually tell? What are your expectations? Are they high or low? Pay attention to your energy coming into this more than you've ever paid attention in your life. Get so freaking transparent with yourself about what you're bringing to the table, what your energy signature is bringing, and what it's actually saying. I truly believe that we have the potential to flip things really dramatically in this group if we just use anomaly tech. Do something different than you've done in the past. I'm going to do something different than I've done in any other group. The first round, I already did something different. This round, I'm planning to go even deeper, doing things I've never done in a group setting before. So be brave with me in that. Okay, so I did not want this live to go super long. So what I want to do, first and foremost, and this is going to be an exercise that I include in week 1, but I want to set us up with it here too. Take a second and imagine how you want to feel at the end of this ultimately 10 weeks. I'm just going to say 10 weeks. Imagine how you want to feel at the end of this 10 weeks. Imagine it's the last day and you've gone through all the work, and most likely you've gone through highs and lows with the class. Also, just an inevitable rhythm of a class is usually everyone starts out, they're excited, then life just catches up. Sometimes you'll miss a live, you get behind, and it's easy to get disconnected from the group. So imagine that you actually stayed plugged in the entire time, even if you didn't do every single thing in the workbook or whatever. But just imagine you're at the end of this and you feel like you got so much out of it, that you shifted dramatically, that whatever your expectations are, which I want them to be dissolved, whatever your expectations were, that something so anomalous happened. It feels different than you expected. Different in a good way. Different in a way you've never expected or experienced. And when I say that, usually always that means something deeper. It shifts us at a deeper level, something that's permanent. So imagine how you want this whole experience to feel at the end. And this is one of the exercises we're going to do. I'm going to actually have you write stuff down, but I just want you to tune into it now for a second. Just tune in and imagine how you want to feel at the end of this. Just the feelings. Imagine, for me, this is what I want. I want us all to feel like we have a deeper level of trust with ourselves and with our tech. That we have a deeper, more prominent confidence in what we are doing as an entrepreneur and what we are offering. That we literally feel turned on by it. And more than anything, I want everyone in this group to feel like, wow, we have an amazing support. That we in this group, how amazing would it be? And we're doing it. That we set up intentionally our own astral grid for entrepreneurs, a grid that is supportive, that's based in the win-win-win, that's based in these principles of the abundance matrix. And then we all go off and teach within our own fault line and within our own experience. And that imagine that every single person in this group, the more successful they are, the more successful you are, because we have started out and intentionally created a network together, a network of support. And not in the typical way empaths tend to do it, which is they give themselves over to someone else or something else, believing that if they just give enough, then in the end they'll get what they need. This is directed by your pleasure. It's directed by your desire, your urge, your creative urge. So it's in alignment. Anything that you give to this space gives back to you tenfold. And I really want at the end of this, like I said, more than anything, for us to feel like, oh, we have a support team. And this support is primarily in the astrals, because I want to consciously, and I'm going to be reminding us all of this the entire time, is that let's see an experiment with imagining all of us successful. So part of the energy of the end of this 10 weeks is feeling that, what if everyone in their individual spaces wherever they're offering their creative gifts, they go to the next level after this 10 weeks. They're in the next level. We feel it palpably how powerful everyone is, and that gives us more confidence as empaths. And like I said, I see this highway that we create with our psychic abilities as we project into this space. So I want this to be an experiment where we are literally building our roadmap as empath entrepreneurs. We're building a space. I see it cyclical because I see it working with the energy of nature that we all get. Because we follow our urge, we all naturally get really in alignment with the co-creative urge. And then, of course, the universe takes over and lines us up perfectly with who we're meant to work with. I want this to be a launching pad for all of you, that this is something you will always remember, as it was a significant shift in your life where your career took off, where your resonance was just solid and stronger than it's ever been, where you repelled and you dissolved all shadow contracts and repelled any negative reinforcement that was coming towards you that was in the energy of self-sabotage. I want it to feel like you step into a new world, that we all co-creatively together decide we are lining up to a parallel reality. And in our new reality, every single one of us is more successful than we've ever been, whatever that means for each of us. Our relationships are more successful. So a big part of what we're going to be focusing on, even though we're going to be focusing on our business, is our relationships, the primary relationships we have in our life. Because if we want to thrive in our business, our relationships have got to be thriving as well. The main relationships in our lives. So we're going to be going into that. But at the end of this, I just feel there's significant shifts in every single person's life. Where you had major shadow contracts, they're dissolved. You feel free in your energy field. That's more than anything. You feel your creative energy just flowing. You feel excited to wake up in the morning. You feel more on your urge than ever. Your urge is just leading you. It feels effortless because your urge is that powerful. So just tune into that. And I want to set us up from that, because if we know what end result we have and we know what parameters we're working under, because we have an infinite amount of things we can choose. But if I choose the win-win-win, and we know that that's what we're committed to, it does change the story we listen to, the things we do by default, because we can ask ourselves, is this in alignment with the win-win-win? No, then I want to change the narrative. I want to change what I'm projecting. I want to change what I'm offering, what I'm allowing, what I'm participating in, what I'm giving my thoughts to and my energy to. And this is especially true for any of you who typically pay attention to dynamics and instantly start telling the story that you've told in the past about people in group settings. So this is just something to be playful with and explore with. We all have our typical thing that we project and we do when it's the start of something new and it's a new group of people, because we've all been hurt in our own ways or had experiences that make us expect certain things. But I just want to start off from day one. Let's do anomaly. Let's choose anomaly. Don't even think about this group the way you've ever thought about any other group. Try not to have any expectations. Just show up. See what happens. Allow your urge to lead you. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable and just see what happens. So I feel so excited about what we're going to create here, I already know there's going to be things that are unexpected, and that's why I'm asking you all from the get-go to be okay with things changing, because I have an outline and I have ideas about how I want things to go, but I can feel that as you guys participate and as I hear your questions and as I receive your imprints, your energetic imprints into the group, it's going to help me know exactly how to customize the experience to you guys and to this group, to what would be the most thriving for all of us. So I'm planning to be flexible, and I just ask that you plan to be flexible as well. And let's let urge, the creative urge, the collective urge of empaths within this group, of our own empathic journeys, to lead us as well. And let's allow our map to be drawn by source itself, by the asking and by the urge. It will lead us and do exactly what it needs to do, and it has all the energy it needs. We just need to learn how to be in alignment with it and in flow and in a space of allowing, but also in a space of being present to desire and what feels good. And that's why this is not something you're going to do in your head. You've got to get in the body. And I'm going to have us do lots of things in the body. So if you really want to get out of this your money back, and 10 times that, do the exercises. Actually do it. I'm going to be doing it too. I plan to be more disciplined than I usually am in these spaces, because I am truly curious about what will happen if we actually apply these things. So let's hold each other accountable. Every week there's going to be some sort of exercise to do, and an actual tangible exercise, and I want to hear people's experience with it, and I want us to hold each other accountable in the most loving way to actually doing the exercises. I don't even want to use the word work, because this is meant to be fun and creative and pleasurable, but we've got to actually still put the energy into it. So without further ado, I'm going to just go through. You guys probably already saw the outline, but I'm going to give a quick outline. As I said, the order might change on this, but this is generally what we're doing. So week 1, which I'll get into in our first live, which will be this week, but we'll implement the exercises next week. I'm assuming that what we'll do is have the lives towards the end of the week. So like this week, we're kind of introducing each other, introducing ourselves, getting comfortable with the space, feeling into the grid, because we're all empaths, so just get comfortable with the space. We'll do the live towards the end of the week, and I'll put a poll up that will just have a couple different days and times, and you guys can vote. Whatever gets the most votes, I will do it on that day and that time. So I'll do the lives kind of towards the end of the week, and then we have the beginning of the next week to talk about our experience. So we'll have like the weekend, the beginning of the next week, and then the next live in the next week will be towards the end of the week again. Unless, like I said, for some reason, only the beginning of the week works. I just need you guys to know too, my days off are Sunday and Monday. So I'm trying to be a lot more disciplined about not getting online and not answering emails or anything on those days. So just know Sunday, Monday, I'll be off and I won't be present here. But any other time during the week, obviously I'll be answering messages and things like that. So, okay, so yeah, let me start with how the weeks are going to go. So week 1, the live that I do at the end of this week, we're going to be setting us up under the intention and in the resonance of the win-win-win. And this is ultimately not just the win-win-win within ourselves. How can we use our creative tech, our Trinity tech, in a tantric way so that life feels really good, and that what we're giving our life force to, what we're giving our creative abilities to, actually invests back into our life. The concept that I really want to get through in week 1 is the concept of the Trinity altogether. All of creation is in threes. All of manifestation, I should say. When something is manifested into 3D, it's because it has been manifested in a physical way. And so part of lining up to the win-win-win, part of lining up to the heaven on earth grid, it's so weird. One of you just popped on and I quite literally felt the whole energy shift. This is how powerful we are when we pop on. So just be aware of it. I feel you, and it's awesome. And I can feel the potential, because all of you are grid holders. The potential for when you get tantric in your space, how you start radiating that tantric energy in your fault line, and how much that soothes the grid. So we're grid workers first and foremost. And week 1, at the end of this week, when I do the first live, or towards the end, I really want you guys to understand, and me too, at an even deeper level, that we're grid workers, and that our physical body is an internal map of the external map that we're working on. So that we have direct, intimate data to our fault line and our grid space that we're working on. So the more we know ourselves from the inside out, the more we can connect to our chakras, to our energy field, the more we know, we get the data, we do the research, which is inside. We do the internal work, and then allow it to be reflected in the external. And we will always have a physical external step that we do each week. But week 1 is all about the win-win-win. And so I want week 1, by the end of it, you to feel so freaking crystal clear about the grid space that you're in and your influence on it. That way you can start working from week 1 in the anomaly energy of being very aware of how your resonance is affecting the grid, and then start using anomaly, doing something different, seeing how it affects you to do something different. I'll get really clear about that when we go into the live. But week 1 is all about being tantric in your grid space. Grid space number 1 being your physical body, number 2 being the external world. And this includes how you're interacting online. So there's a specific grid. If you start paying attention to your patterns of how you show up online, the things you comment on, the things you like, the things you post. If you get angry and get upset and get in wars, or if you are avoidant or whatever, you're going to really look at your patterns of how you show up online. And we're going to practice anomaly there. Then we're going to look at our patterns of how we show up on the grid. So what I mean by that is where you live specifically, you have a certain way, a certain rhythm that you have established with how you shop, what times of the day you go out to shop, the stores you go to, the restaurants you go to, the places you go to. I know some of you are in way more of a lockdown. I'm pretty lucky because where I'm at is not incredibly locked down, but regardless, it might be a weird time to do this because if you're locked down, but still, you've created a rhythm that you interact with the space you live. You've created a rhythm in literally with your neighbors and how you act towards them, and if you act towards them, if you even know them, depending on where you live and what you do. We're going to become super, super, super aware of our rhythms, because everything about this life is relational. And we've got to get back to the basics of, it's not about the world changing out there in order for things to be different for us. We have got to change the way we relate to things, and then the things we relate to shift. It just does. And one of the greatest anomalies is just to apply more witness. Less judgment, more witness. We're going to be going deep into this. Sometimes it's applying more of a boundary. Sometimes it's speaking up. Sometimes it's the main thing I really believe, and I think this is easy to get in a rut of lack. And then when we go out, I know this with me, having a negative energy when I go to certain stores, being annoyed that I have to wait in line, or being annoyed that I have to wear a mask, or being annoyed that just because I can't breathe and I hate it. But just whatever, any of those things, changing subtly the story we're telling in our head about it, and seeing ourselves as we have the ability with our energy field, which is an extension of us, to actually shift the algorithms instead of being shifted by the algorithms outside of us. This is a really fun trick to play with as an empath, because when an empath is disempowered, they'll say things like, I don't like being in public places, I don't like to go out, I have to protect myself, I have to wear crystals, I have to armor up, or whatever. When we get really, really tantric and we get really comfortable with allowing pleasure in our energy field and allowing ourselves to go towards what we want and away from what we don't want, things get more pleasurable and we get more intimate, and it feels way better to go out. And one of the things I started practicing with is just being more tantric when I go out, being more loving. And when I put a mask on, just think of anyone who's really terrified of getting sick or whatever, that I could bless them and that I could radiate just love, and putting blessings around businesses when I go and support them, being conscious about what I'm supporting. There's so many different ways that we can approach how we interact throughout the day, and I don't think we've even scratched the surface to know how much it can benefit us. But I want you to start seeing your energy as tantric and circulating online, circulating in your energy field, circulating in your grid that you're on. but becoming so aware of this psychic tantric conversation that you're having with the world around you and getting more tantric within it, leading it via pleasure versus leading it via being preemptive and trying to avoid what you don't want or get out of harm's way, or having this really stuck idea about what the world is like that out there and then how you are, because we can prove ourselves wrong in an instant when we change our energy. So that's week 1. Week 2 is we're going to be focusing completely on shadow contracts. And you guys have heard me say a ton about this, but I don't believe that we can be free from lack until we've dissolved our shadow contracts. So we're going to be paying attention to the 5 primary relationships in our lives, the 5 primary people, and the 5 primary entities, whether it's church or work or government or whatever, that we are interacting with all the time. We're getting super specific about our interaction with them, and we're going to change the resonance and the relationship with it by dissolving shadow contracts. And we'll get really specific about that in week 2. So at the end of week 2, I really want you guys to all feel like more sovereignty than you've ever felt in your entire experience, because I want you to know at a level you've never even freaking known how much you are actually in control of how things feel in your reality. And week 2, when we dissolve shadow contracts, it's uncomfortable, especially for empaths who don't like upsetting anyone. But I really believe true sovereignty and freedom, we have to get super comfortable with people being disappointed in us. And I think that's the biggest obstacle for a lot of empaths, and especially empath entrepreneurs, who often will tend to want to be pleasing to everyone and be happy to everyone and be super positive and not be triggering at all. Screw all that. Triggers are gold mines. You're only going to trigger people where you are getting empowered yourself and where they have in their own resonance are serving lack. So when someone gets free from the oppressor, it's triggering to the ones who want to stay oppressed because they're afraid of stepping out. So it's important to trigger people. And we're going to be talking about intentionally triggering, using anomaly, triggering our own fault line intentionally so that we can choose something different, choose anomaly, and catapult out of that fault line, out of the resonance of lack. So it's going to be fun, and I'm excited to go into that week with you guys. But just know week 2 might be a little dicey if you're uncomfortable with making people, uncomfortable, or with people being disappointed, because anytime anyone is enslaved, when they get free, it's disappointing to people, especially the ones who are benefiting from them being enslaved. So just know that. Week 4, we're going to be talking about the role of vulnerability, especially as an entrepreneur, why our vulnerabilities are so key and so important to understand, and why it's important to create our whole business around our vulnerabilities. Keep them in our minds. Be so aware of our vulnerabilities that we're always protecting and securing our deepest vulnerabilities. That's how we make it so we're not a match to self-sabotage or to someone else coming in and knocking us off our pedestal. We can only get on a pedestal if we're unaware of our vulnerabilities or unwilling to be vulnerable. So this is something that I do believe it's becoming a lot more popular, I guess, to be more vulnerable. But this is in terms of business, but this is another level. This is about using your vulnerabilities as a way to create and navigate your business, how to know what you need, what you personally need, and getting so specific about what you need and so customized to your energy, your rhythm, your urge. This whole tantric entrepreneur experience is about creating your life around your urge and doing it on purpose and doing it intentionally and making money doing it as well. Setting your whole life up so that you're overflowing with life and knowing that that's what the collective is asking for. We need people who are free and who are sovereign and who are abundant, and who are creating with other people who are doing that and offering things that actually enliven and uplift and restore humanity. So you're needed at such a deep level. And the role that vulnerability plays in this is huge, because we're talking to humans who are very vulnerable. We're not above that. And business in the past, especially influencers and things like that, there has been a trend of, just pretend you're not human, or be as little of a human as you can, or as least of a human as you can. You know what I'm saying? We're flipping that on its head, and we're going to be as human as we possibly can be, and and be as transparent about our vulnerabilities as we possibly can be, and together, even as a group, intentionally securing even the vulnerabilities of the group so that this place feels really extremely safe for each other. That's week 3. Week 4 is all about psychic connections through empathy and witness. So in week 4, we're going to be practicing, we're going to be doing this through the whole course actually, but week 4 is a huge emphasis on how to have tantric psychic communication with each other and with the planet. And the concept that in the multidimensional internet, which is the real technology and how our real reality works, that the Matrix is just trying to copy basically, is that there are an infinite amount of conversations going on at all times. What people think, especially at night before they go to bed, what we're focusing on, what we're afraid of, those are creating psychic highways. And the more people that think something, the more powerful that highway is, and the easier it is to get sucked into that realm of thinking. The key is to know how to do this consciously, because what you think about, you fuel. It becomes more of a reality. That's just how creation works, and everything exists. We get stuck in the lack matrix and we try to control what realities are allowed to exist and which ones aren't. To really be a sovereign creator, we have to understand all realities exist. It is not our job to go to war with any of them. All we need to know is which reality we want to participate in and consciously fuel that so that we can strengthen it. It's not about turning a blind eye to things that are happening either. The more we know about what's in the darkness, the more we can get clear about what we want to create, but it's so important that we use our psychic abilities to fuel the conversations that are actually restorative, that are actually solution-based, that are actually creative in nature rather than destructive by nature. So heaven on earth and stepping into the win-win-win is ultimately about getting creative with our tech. So we've got to choose very intentionally what psychic conversations we want to be involved in. So this week week 4 is really going to be about clearing out all the ways that our psychic energy is entangled in the lack matrix, and really get specific and focused about fueling it into a solution-based reality, which is already going and already exists. And there's so many amazing, incredibly smart, gifted, talented people that are already building in this world. So we're not building from scratch. The solutions are already there. We just got to tune into it. And like I said, where we feel scared, where we feel vulnerable, where we're predicting worst case scenario because of our experiences, all of that blocks us. And all of that keeps us from actually investing in the world we want, because we think we have to go to war with the world we don't want in order to even have what we want, a possibility. We think we have to convince others to agree that our world is like liable, or what's the word I'm looking for? Even possible in order to do it. But so we have to get used to the idea that we don't have to fight, we don't have to prove, we don't have to convince anyone, we don't have to make this about anyone else. This is about you, and it's about your urge, and it's about unapologetically moving in that direction. So that's in week 4 what we're really going to be focusing on is techniques, and we're going to do it together. We're going to break off in groups or in pairs and really practice this as well. Practice some techniques for psychic co-creations. And this helps us to be a lot more confident psychically as well, and just to really realize what we're doing psychically when we connect, because we're psychically connecting all the time. We're just not aware of it. And so what happens when we become aware of it and we start practicing it and we include our energy field in the equation? I said it once, but I really believe empaths can have the most clear and powerful and palpable telepathic signal if we include our energy field into the equation. But most empaths stay in their head, get super triggered into thinking rather than feeling, or because they're afraid of how they feel, or get triggered into their upper chakras and avoid the lower lands, avoid like your lower chakras and the feeling and the deeper emotions. But that's where all the magnetic power is in the lower chakras. So being very conscious about tuning into that. Week 4 is going to be, I think, a lot of fun. And obviously 10 weeks is probably not even enough for all of this, but I think it'll give us all enough to work with. And I'm going to keep this group open too. And I think I'm going to keep doing new rounds of this group. So you guys can stay in as long as you want, just so you know. I really want to create a powerful like network of empath entrepreneurs where we're all thriving and we just have an etiquette and a way of being that we're all on the same page with, and the win-win-win is the primary like umbrella of it all. So yeah, we're learning how to tantrically interact with the win-win-win. So also, I didn't say this, but in this week 4 of Psychic Conversations, we're going to be doing some money magic tricks as well. Like, tricks isn't the right word, but some techniques to help us become a magnet to abundance, and specifically money, and also co-create. I want us to like envision money flowing around all of us, in money or abundance in whatever way we need, but everyone's needs being met. What does it feel like? Even when I say that, what would it feel like at the end of this if every single person in this group literally up-leveled not just financially, but into the win-win-win? Think of what a difference we would make if all of us in here, you have a powerful astral reach, especially if you're online and you're growing your business in that way. You have an astral reach. So it matters. It matters what you're thinking. It matters what you're feeling. It matters what you're investing your creative energy into. So imagine what it would be at the end of this if you had up-leveled and everyone in this group had up-leveled and we had developed a certain trust with each other in the way to interact with the abundance matrix. Like, just feel the power of that. A solid support team, a solid resonance is what I see us doing in the astrals, is actually creating a very powerful resonance that's attractive and that magnetizes more empaths to be more empowered, to live in a way that's actually quite natural for us. So, okay, week 5 is creating something tantric. So in week 5, the whole concept of this week 5 of this group in general, but what I want you guys to all have by the end of this is something very tangible that you are interacting with. Hold on, let me say that again. A very tangible way in which you are interacting with specifically your social media platforms as an entrepreneur. So week 5, based on the work we've done in your fault lines thus far, well, by the time we get to week 5, you should be really deeply into your urge. You should be feeling, you'll probably have downloads and really instinctive things that you've never thought to say that you want to say. And what we're going to be doing is really seeing our social media platforms as an extension of us. So this concept of the win-win-win is that we're taking the now, this moment of the now, and we're committing it to restoration. We're committing it to heaven on earth. So we are choosing to use our energy and our creative technology, that what we offer, it does 2 things. It heals the past and it opens up a new future potential reality, because we've gotten out of the cycles and the hypnosis of the lack matrix. So, and we've dissolved our shadow contracts. So I see it as we become a living prayer, that our technology itself becomes an offering, that what we choose to create is our living prayer. It's our offering. And what we are choosing through our own free will is to, rather than just let anything come through and focus on anything that we think about in every scenario, just being tossed back and forth by every wave of energy that comes through, we are choosing very intentionally and very consciously to invest our creative energy in a future and invest that energy in healing the past. So ultimately, it's actually making the now as alive as we possibly can, as pleasurable as we possibly can, which actually expands life force energy. And in that expansion in and of itself, heals the past and opens us up to a brighter future. That's what we're ultimately doing. We're investing our life in a purpose, in a mission, not just in our business, because it's going to change and grow and evolve as you change and grow and evolve. But you are committing, and I am committing, and we are committing to the win-win-win. We're committing to restoration, and we're committing to a future that actually is more sustainable and that provides healing and witness for humans, particularly I think for what those of us in this group are offering. So yeah, week 5 is going to be all about actually creating something tangible, whether it's a post, whether it's a free masterclass, whether it's an actual class. For all of you, it'll be different. Some of you, it might just be a post. Some of you, it might be an entire class that gets downloaded to you, or an entire offering or something. But I really want week 5 to start strategizing about where your creative urge is leading you and how you want to the first tangible thing you want to give to your platform from that creative space. And I want it to scare the shit out of all of you, like, and me too, because I'll be doing something different too. So I think it should scare us. And if it doesn't scare us, we're probably, that's our indication that we're not on the right track. So, and then week 6 is all about tantric collaborations. So I guess week 6 is how I have it lined up for when we'll actually split up into groups or into partners, and we'll see how it goes. But and I'll split off with someone too if there's not an equal amount. But we will split off, and this is when we use our gifts with each other. So my idea here is whether you're a coach or whether you're just an influencer, or you are, I didn't mean to say just an influencer, it's never just, but whether you're an influencer or you're an artist or whatever it is that you offer, we're going to kind of use each other or experiment with each other as your audience and then as your client, or vice versa, and really work with our gifts. And we're also going to take a little bit to work as like collaborative networks as well. I'll go deeper into it that week, but the idea here is that we're going to start really getting feedback from each other from an energetic win-win-win urge standpoint. So it's like we're breaking off in little groups and making love to each other in our creative spaces, and really using what we've learned this far to just amp up the sexual creative energy in our personal offerings and in the way we personally interact with each other, and using each other as an example of our audience in that week. So hopefully I explained that well, but that's what we'll be doing week 6. And then week 7 is all about the tribe vibe and the astral network. So this is where we are going to use our psychic creative abilities, and I want to do this together, where we actually set up a grid in the astrals, and we'll get into how to do this that week. And I'm experimenting, so just know that. This is the part I didn't do in the first group. But what I really want us to do is consciously create an astral grid, and in a very tangible way with each other, that we can put a part of our, as a part of our rhythm with our urge. We're going to be establishing a really powerful creative rhythm with our urge, and to include our astral network as a part of it, to see us as all of us contributing to this heaven on earth grid. And just like we would in our grid, as I talked about for week 3 or whatever, where we're paying attention to the actual grid that we're interacting with, what stores we go to, how we drive, what roads we drive on, how we're blessing those roads. We're going to do it this week, but in the astrals. So, and the sky's the limit, because we can create whatever we want. So it's kind of like creating our own neighborhood and setting co-intentions about who we pull into that neighborhood, and what we want, what kind of people we want in it, and what we want them to feel when they come into it. Because the ultimate objective is to pull people into their creative urge, and that being a part of this astral grid fuels their urge even more. So people's creative urges are just like overflowing from them, and we create a renaissance that more and more and more people are acting from their urge rather than from their fear. I mean, the sky's the limit here, but we're going to get really creative, and hopefully by this week we all have an idea of what I'm talking about, so this will all make way more sense when we go into this. And then finally, week 8, we're going to go into our actual offering. So this is where I want to get even more specific about, for each of you individually, and for me too, about what you offer on your platform, what you're offering to the grid, and ultimately what you're offering to you. Because remember, you're the grid that you're serving. Everything outside of you is a reflection of something inside. So all of this is going to be about getting in touch with your inside, as I said in some of my other lives, which I'm sure you guys have heard from my YouTube channel or from my other group. But having business meetings with your chakras, essentially I want you guys to feel at the end of this that you have a whole rhythm for the way that you do your business, for the way that you interact with your business, not just your business, but your whole life. And it's all directed through your urge. So it's more cyclical rather than linear. And what we're really doing is getting really, really comfortable with being in rhythm with our urge. That's ultimately what we're doing. And by the end of week 8, I want you to feel like you know so clearly what you offer, that it feels effortless when you leave this group, or when you end this particular round, that it's effortless, and your urge is so there, and you know exactly what to do next for your business. And then the final week, we will just do a Q&A. So that's just to make sure, that'll just be a time, at least an hour, where I'll be on, and as many of you can be on as possible. And it's just all about answering questions. the steps next, blah, blah, blah. So that's what this week is going to look like. I did this live a lot longer than I expected, but I was like, oh, I'll get on there and do a 5-minute live. That never happens. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. I hope it lined you guys up to the idea and the basic rhythm of this. And I would say start practicing tuning into the rhythm of this group. And also, because I'm leaving registration open today, I'm going to put this video up somewhere so that people can know what this group is about. Set your intention for like the kind of energy you want to call in, because we're all a part of co-creating. We did this in the first round. I had everyone tune into the type of people they wanted and the type of energy they wanted to come in. And I can already feel you guys of like, yes, like it's just such a cool group. I love the energy. I love the palpability of it. I love the urge here. I can feel that there's some like crazy wild people in here too. And thank God, because we're establishing a whole new grid. Like I see us as setting a specific like resonance in the astrals. That's just like, boom, we're here. You know what I mean? Like boom. And it's so attractive because it's led by urge. And so think about that, just how you want this whole group to feel. And if anyone else comes into this group, that we set a resonance for like the type of people that will just make this group even better, just take it to the next level. So we're calling you in if you guys are listening and if you're feeling called to this group. But yeah, I'm super, super, super freaking excited about this. Anomaly 2020, that's what I'm voting for. And if you want to vote for Anomaly, just choose to do something different than you normally do. Do something outside of your normal patterns. That's how we create Anomaly, and that's how we have the potential to spark phenomenon. So try and allow yourself to sustain Anomaly as long as you possibly can. And I'm excited to dive deeper with you. So I will be posting a poll in this group later today about the day and times this week that will work best for our first live, and everyone vote on it, and whatever one gets the most votes is when our next live will be, and we'll do that each week. And the reason why I'm not doing a set time each week is because there's so many of us, and there's people from different countries. I know there's a couple people from Australia. That's the hardest one to get to where they can join. So I like to do different times so that just it provides for different people to be able to join. So anyway, okay, much love you guys. I hope you're doing well.